The Victoria Real Estate Board just released its stats package for January 2026, and it looks bad, like really bad. In fact, it looked so bad that I spent about 2 hours rereading the report, comparing it with the same report from last year, and referencing sales on our MLS system from January, trying to figure out where the discrepancy is. The deal is that boots to the ground, it feels busy, and listings that are well priced are really competitive right now. Things are moving quick. So why are we seeing this discrepancy? Well, I'm going to break it down in this video, and we're going to talk about what they don't share in the narrative on the report. I'm Sean P, and I'm a real estate expert living in Victoria, BC. On this channel, we make videos every week to help you understand what's really going on in our market. So if you want to stay informed and you always want to know the best strategies to use, make sure that you like and subscribe. It's a great way to make sure you don't miss anything that we have coming up. Also, if you have plans involving real estate, I'd love to help. That's literally what I do. So there's a link in the description you can use to book some time in my calendar, and we can get started from there. Okay, let's get back to the report. Okay, so let's start with the numbers. So first of all, if we read the narrative on page 1 of the media stats release by the Victoria Real Estate Board for January, the first thing it says is that sales are down about 20%. Not good. Then it continues on to say that inventory is up almost 10%. Also not good. And then down at the bottom, it references price and says that the HPI, or the home price index for a single family detached home, is down about 2.5%, and condos are down about 1.5%. Now, we are still within the realm of what's considered a balanced market, but we are right on the edge of a buyer's market based on these stats. The interesting thing, though, is in the statement made by our board chair, he references this spring representing a return to seasonal normalcy, and he also compares it with 2023 and 2024. So what's with that statement? Why did he miss last year? And also, why does this market report not reflect what it feels like boots to the ground? There's two main things that we're going to talk about: the HPI, and we're also going to talk about year-over-year reporting. Let's start there. In Victoria, we use year-over-year reporting. This is the primary metric on our reports, and this isn't unusual. This is standard in organized real estate the world around. Year-over-year reporting is the best way to look at real estate growth trajectories because, well, it does a few things. First of all, it takes out seasonality, because if we're comparing this January with last January, well, January is going to always have a similar set of characteristics. And if you compare January with May, well, May's always going to have higher sales figures and usually higher prices, just because it's always busier in the spring than it is right after the holidays. The other thing that year-over-year reporting does is it gives us a longer time horizon. So it's more meaningful because it takes out the little bumps we have throughout the year and it smooths out the graph. There is one big challenge with year-over-year reporting, and that is we think of it as something that reflects what's happening right now, but it also is in reflection of what happened last year. And I've talked about this before on the channel, so forgive me if you're a longtime listener, but just quickly, if you've not been familiarized with this before, if something unique happened last year, which affected our market, well, it'll be reflected negatively this year. And that's exactly what happened this year when we look at our market report. Our market report shows that sales are down, well, 20%. But last year, we were in the wake of a surge of activity that took place at the end of 2024 because they were riding the high of 2 really aggressive rate cuts from the Bank of Canada. We saw a surge of activity taking place, which promptly died off when Trump became inaugurated and there was all kinds of political turmoil that came into place. So the numbers this month look really bad, but you bet your bottom dollar they're going to balance out really quickly next month, because February 2025 was very different from January 2025. With that out of the way, the next thing that we need to talk about is the home price index. Now, this is something as well that we've talked about on the channel before, but just in case you haven't seen it, I'll cover it again quickly right now. Conceptually, the idea behind a home price index is they set a benchmark home for every area, and that home would be the average home for that given area. Then what they do from that point forward in time is they track the price growth on those average homes, occasionally making adjustments, and they use that price growth to calculate what the average home would cost in a given month. Now, generally speaking, this is a great way to look at real estate prices because it smooths out the variability. For example, if we look back on last year and we see that the average price of a home, which is just the average of all the homes that sold that month, was really low in January and really high in May, well, that might be because the market went up in price, but it also might just be that we sold a lot of fixer-uppers in January and a lot of mansions in May. So the home price index is designed to take this out of it. The problem is it tends to fall under a lot of scrutiny. It doesn't always feel like it's reactive to what's going into the market. It purposefully is designed to slow price trend curves. So if the market is jumping aggressively, it will react somewhat sluggishly. And most importantly, it's not an open book methodology. One of the biggest pieces of criticism is that most people don't know how it's calculated, even and especially real estate professionals. It's calculated using really sophisticated models because they have to take so many variables into account. And one can imagine that when these numbers are not feeling representative to what's going on in the marketplace, well, a lot of people might question the validity of the HPI. This is where we get to the mismatch I described at the beginning of the video between what the report says and the experience that buyers have writing offers in this market. Just about every offer that my buyers wrote this month, we were in competition against another party on the same property. That doesn't really feel like the market that's teetering on entering a buyer's market, which they described in the report. So there's definitely a bit of a disparity between what the stats are showing and what's actually going on in the market. To make this worse, well, the HPI for a single family detached home last month was down 2.5%. But the average price, if you look at all the single family detached homes that sold, was up 4.7. Same with condos. They were down 1.5% on the HPI, and they were up 6.7% on average price. This shows us two things. First of all, average properties are selling a little bit higher on average last month, and there's also a strengthening in the upper band of the market, which is a sign of the market growing confidence. And again, this all points towards us having a healthy spring. So this is really the gap that we're seeing. The HPI is a slower number to move than average price, and it's kind of designed in a way to do that. They want to take the sensationalism out of the market. But average price is important to watch because, again, it signals which parts of our market are moving. And right now, we're seeing an uptick on higher end properties, which have been really soft for the past 3 years. This is a positive thing. It shows a lot of confidence coming back to our market. It shows that people are upgrading, and just generally, it's a good sign for positivity in our marketplace. With that said, we're probably not expecting a year where things are gangbusters, especially in the price department. We still have a ton of inventory to chew through, and we're also in a marketplace where we're going to see a lot of people listing this spring. The mortgage renewal wave that we've been watching for the past several market reports is set to peak in June and July this year. Between September last year and September this year, there's 1.8 million mortgages renewing, and about 60% of them are going to see a fair to significant increase in their costs. These are people who signed up back when money was really cheap during COVID, and well, it's not going to be the same anymore. So we will likely see people listing their homes this spring in anticipation of their mortgage renewal because they just either can't afford to get back in, or they're in a position where they don't want to assume the cost. And inflation has been really tough on a lot of people's savings. Looking forward, I still think that we will see some price growth. So if you're expecting to sell this year, it's still a great time to do it. If you're upgrading, do it sooner than later because you want to get ahead of that growth curve. And seeing that higher end properties are starting to move, well, that's going to grow throughout the spring more than likely. So it's a good time to start shopping now. If you're a first time buyer, we have great inventory out there right now, but it is competitive. And it'll be interesting to see how supply and demand balance through the spring with the expected wave of inventory that we will normally get, accented by all these mortgage renewals, which could be offset just by healthy buyer activity. All in all, every situation is different. So as always, use the link to get in touch with me if you have actual plans. I'd really love to help. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe. You'd be doing us a solid. And that way we'll make sure to see you on the next video.